Your business only dies when you stop working on it. That the only condition actually for failure is you no longer believing that this thing can succeed and no longer making progress towards that goal. And I thought that was really interesting and both sad at the time. And in some ways, I also feel now like that was the only way that like my body and my mind was going to get me to quit. That I was going to take myself to the breaking point of my finances, my like social relationships, all that stuff in order to make it happen. And when that thing broke, it was the universe telling me it's time to quit. These factors are outside of your control. And so might not be choosing for your business to die, but everything else is. Um, and in some ways, I think that was why I bring up this question of is it actually useful? Like in our entrepreneurial mode where we're myopic, laser focused, like a lot of us are very tenacious and interested in making this big thing happen and believe it. In some ways, maybe the only way that we, for the good of us or our families or our co-founders and all that stuff, that we stop working on it is that we have to burn out. What do you think about
I resonate with a lot of that.
that?
I think the framing of your business only dies when you stop working on really links your personal identity to that business. It's your
Yep.
responsibility to sail this ship. It all is on your shoulders. If you fail, the business fails. If the business fails, you fail. That is a lot to carry just mentally.
Hmm.
Um, I think this does come down to a central question, I think, in my life of how do you um, decide when to stop.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think that's what you're asking. You want to persevere. We know that generally in business, if you survive, you'll eventually thrive, right? Like you will be successful if you don't give up. If you figure out how to pivot, how to change, how to react, how to address new competition. If you solve all those questions and just survive, you don't need to do anything
Yeah.
crazy, but if you survive, you'll be okay. But the reality is surviving is so hard.
Yeah.
And so you talk about a startup experience where you're pushing the boulder up the mountain
Yeah.
forever and ever with no end in sight. And even if you did get to the top, then the boulder's just going to fall back to the bottom and you got to roll it all the way
Right.
up. I really feel like you need to balance, and I need to balance my own personal desire, my own personal belief in a product or a project with reactions from other people. I think I have the tendency of isolating myself and saying, I have this great idea. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to push it forward. Maybe I'll test it a little bit. I'll take some feedback and then get back. In theory, that's somewhat good. You want to iterate on the product on your own with some feedback. But I do think there is a point where you should listen to a lack of positive feedback as a decision to
Yep.
stop, right? I think you learn so much working on businesses and projects, apply that knowledge. But if that knowledge all leads you to, I'm in the wrong industry, or this problem isn't as big as I thought it, or this market isn't wanting the solution I thought it did, you can pivot so much so that you become divorced from your purpose,
Right.
right? I feel like I've seen a lot of startups where they start and they're like, I'm going to build a tool for streamers. And they build this and they talk to all these streamers. And then a few years later, they're building something for TV. You
Totally.
know, that's a success. Like investors are happy, but is the founder really happy to be surviving that long? I personally wouldn't. I wanted to solve that one problem. So I think for me, if feedback you're getting pushes you too far away from your vision, you should feel okay in stopping what you're doing. And the result of that happening could actually cause burnout, right? If you're not getting that positive feedback, you're getting all this negativity
Yeah.
or these pivot requests or feature requests,
Or no feedback. You're
feedback at
completely
all.
isolated and just working on something by yourself with no and you can't get anybody to look at it or talk to you. I think that's the experience for
Yeah.
so many founders.
My heart goes out and I've been there and It sucks, and that's another problem of just not having the distribution, access to your market in order to even present your solution, which is really frustrating. And you never want to shut down for that
Right.
reason. That's one of the worst reasons to have to shut down, but it's definitely valid. Uh, you can do your best to try to answer that, but sometimes you just run out of resources, you run out of time.
Totally.